Hey everybody, this is Anthony and welcome to another episode of our daily vlog series for the VR Game Rankings YouTube channel. We are now on episode 24. It is Thursday, November 2nd, and I do have a handful of news stories to get into today. Nothing particularly earth-shattering, but news stories nonetheless. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Our top story of the day is Microsoft joins OpenXR. And I thought a good way to kind of get into this discussion is actually to read a couple of comments that were in a Reddit thread on the Oculus subreddit that kind of explains this situation a little bit better. Personally, I'll tell you that myself personally, I don't really get into a lot of the politics of the different APIs, the Kronos group, OpenGL, OpenXR, all this different stuff. I don't really get into that very much, and I kind of just take a cursory glance at this type of thing. So there were a couple of comments in a Reddit thread about this that kind of sum things up very well. So I thought, let me just go ahead and read these comments, and that will kind of give us the information that we need. Okay, so on the Oculus subreddit, where they were talking about Microsoft joining OpenXR, Redditor friend called 5, he posted this: "I'm normally clued up on this sort of thing, but I have no idea what OpenXR is. Could someone explain it like I'm 5, please?" Okay, and then Somnium OV did a very good job of explaining what it's all about, and I'm going to go ahead and read his quote. Okay, so here's what Somnium OV says. He says, "OpenXR is a standard API for VR being created by the Kronos Group, who also maintains OpenGL these days, so it's in good hands. OpenXR is made by Kronos, and all of the members of the OpenXR initiative, which includes Valve, Oculus, and many others. Let me go back. Okay, so OpenXR is made by Kronos and all of the members of the OpenXR initiative, which includes Valve, Oculus, and many others. In the near future, developers will be able to use OpenXR to make their games support VR headsets instead of using SteamVR, OpenVR, and the Oculus SDK. On the client PC using that software, OpenXR will directly interface with the drivers of the VR headset, which will have to be updated once this time comes. Note that there is still a manufacturer layer to the chain, so Oculus will still be able to provide things like Oculus Dash and asynchronous space warp to Rift users in OpenXR programs. So a portion of the Oculus SDK will likely survive after that, but the general parts that make the program Rift exclusive won't be there anymore. Same goes for SteamVR, OpenVR. Actually, it's going to help that API a lot because it won't have to do the work to support the Rift. The OpenXR layer will deal with that and a lot more efficiently." So that was Somnium OV. So it was a pretty good explanation. I thought kind of going through that kind of explains it. I knew about the Kronos group, and Microsoft was part of the Kronos group, but they hadn't signed up with OpenXR, and a lot of people thought that they just weren't going to do this, that they were going to go down their own road and that they were just going to focus in on their own thing and they weren't going to join OpenXR. But now they have joined it, so this is good news for everybody involved. Long term, what this really means long term is basically the whole idea for all of this is to not let all the proprietary nonsense cause problems for the end-level consumer. When an end-level consumer gets a headset and they want to use this software or that software, basically what it's really hopefully going to do long-term is turn our headsets into monitors. For example, I'm using an Acer monitor right now that I'm looking at, and I don't have to worry about, oh, I can only use this Acer monitor on these websites. You know, you can use this Acer monitor on anything. I can go to any websites, I can play any games on it, I can watch any videos on it. It's just a freaking monitor. And the idea behind the Kronos group and the OpenXR API standard is basically we want to get it to that level where people can just use their headsets for pretty much anything they want to, and you don't have to worry about all these restrictions and all these different APIs, these different specific APIs that you have to dial into and all of that sort of thing. So it's really for the consumers. Now, none of this has actually gone into effect yet. And for example, like when the time comes, the OpenXR is going to directly interface with the drivers, and they're going to have to be updated. So all of the different headset drivers are going to have to be updated to be able to deal with this. But he did explain that, yeah, there still is a manufacturer layer to this. So Oculus can still provide the Oculus Dash. They can still do the asynchronous space warp and that sort of thing. So it's good news overall. I mean, this is just great news. What it could mean a little bit longer term down the road is that we should be able to use our Rifts and our HTC Vives and be able to access Microsoft Windows Mixed Reality platform. All of that should be coming in the not too distant future. So it's just good news all around as far as that goes. Okay, the next big story I have for today is SPARC. Okay, so remember when what day was that? Was that Monday where I had the VR is dead? And, I kind of went on that little rant about how VR as we know it is dead. And it all had to do with CCP Games basically ceasing all VR production. And the story that I heard was that the Atlanta-based offices of CCP, they're the ones that were responsible for SPARC, at least for the PlayStation VR version of SPARC. And the idea was that entire studio, that all those employees were fired. It's just boom, it's over with, it's done, okay? And so when we first heard about that, I was like, man, what does this mean for the Oculus and the Steam versions of SPARC? Are they just going to cancel the Oculus and Steam version? Are we never going to get that version? Or are they still going to bring it out? Well, I did a Reddit post actually where I was saying I hope that CCP Games doesn't cancel SPARC. That would really suck. And Puff the Ped, which is a Redditor that participates a lot on the Vive subreddit. He's a developer, actually. Puff the Ped was in my thread, and he said, if everyone was fired, I highly doubt we will get a Steam version. Employees are required for releasing a game, even a finished one. And he was talking about how, updating servers and dealing with stuff and all of that you need to have a team there to bring this game out. And if everybody was let go, then SPARC on Steam and SPARC on Oculus is probably not going to happen, right? And so that was super depressing because I thought, man, SPARC on PlayStation VR is such a good game. It feels so good. It really is dialed in, and I think it would be a great game on Oculus and Vive, especially Oculus, just because of the touch controllers and how you're grabbing a ball and you're throwing a ball. I just think like that would feel really good on the Oculus with the Oculus touch controllers. I'm sure it would be good on the Vive as well. We all know that PlayStation VR, the tracking for PlayStation VR is a little bit on the sketch side of the coin. So being able to play a game like SPARC on the Vive and on the Rift where you have basically perfect tracking, that is a nice bonus. And I was really disappointed that Vive and Rift owners weren't going to get a chance to play this, but apparently they are. The Steam and Oculus versions of SPARC is coming on November 16th. So just when we thought mid-November couldn't get more packed, it's getting more packed. Remember, LA Noire, November 14th. From Other Suns, November 14th. Payday 2 Beta, November 16th. And now SPARC for the Rift and for the Vive on November 16th as well. So this is really good news. I don't know what this necessarily means for that Atlanta-based studio. Maybe they weren't actually working on the Steam and Oculus versions of SPARC, or it's possible that the game is in the can. The game is done. The game is working great. And maybe they let all those people go and they're going to use some other support staff to make sure that the game is running smoothly and the servers are working well and any bug fixes and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm not obviously working for CCP Games. I don't know the insides of that situation, but regardless, it is good. It's kind of bittersweet because this is going to be the last CCP-based VR game that we're going to get for quite some time. So it's kind of bittersweet from that standpoint, but at least Steam owners, at least Rift owners are going to get a chance to play SPARC, which I think is a really cool game. It'll be interesting to see the price. I'm guessing the price is going to be $29.99 like it is on PlayStation VR. And, you know, when games come to Steam, it's a little bit different because well, when a game is on PlayStation, you have a licensing fee that you have to pay to Sony for every single copy that is sold. You pay a fee to Sony, and on the PC it doesn't work like that. Of course, when you're on Steam, you're giving Valve 30%, and I'm sure it's the same way on the Oculus store. You're probably giving Oculus 30% as well. So it's kind of tit for tat when you really think about it. But a $29.99 price might be a little bit harder to swallow for some of the PC VR players for a quote-unquote sports game, a futuristic sports game. So it'll be interesting to see if it sticks with that $29.99 price on PC VR, or if there is some type of price reduction, and if that also comes to PlayStation VR as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. Another little news tidbit I have is Echo Arena is free forever. Okay, so the thing about Echo Arena, we heard in the very beginning that Echo Arena was going to be free for a limited time, that eventually, like, you could sign up for an Oculus account, you can download Echo Arena or start the download, and then you have it in your Oculus account, and then you would always have that game for free. And we had this story. It was on one of our one of our daily vlogs where I was saying there's only 2 days left. If you guys want to grab the free version of Echo Arena, you better go out and grab it. There's only 2 days left. We had that story one time. And then what happened was, it was like maybe a week after that, I heard that there's still a chance to grab Echo Arena for free. And I was like, what? I thought there was only 2 days, and that was like a week ago. So what happened to that? So they kept kind of flip-flopping on this, and so it was still free. Well, now we find out they've just decided it's going to be free forever. They're not going to do a $20 price for this or anything like that. So Echo Arena is just free forever. I think it's a good idea. Anybody that comes aboard and gets anybody that gets an Oculus account is going to be able to get this game, kind of like Lucky's Tale. So even if you have Revive and you got as long as you have an Oculus account, you could have Lucky's Tale, you can have Echo Arena, and it's going to be free forever. And that's a good idea. It's a great multiplayer game. It's one of the better multiplayer games we have in VR. And, you know, they were doing this Halloween thing. I actually haven't gone into it since the Halloween thing. I probably should have checked it out real quick. But it is good news that Echo Arena is free forever. Okay, another news story I got. Zephyr VR is live on Kickstarter. And if you thought the Vive and Chill was kind of weird, wait till you get a look at this. Okay, so let me bring this up. So yeah, there's a Kickstarter for Zephyr VR, Real Wind for virtual reality. Feel what it's like to fly through the air, have bullets whiz by you, or be attacked by ghosts. And this will work with any PlayStation VR, Vive, or Oculus game. Okay, so they have a $30,000 goal. They've already got almost 24,000. They have 163 backers, so they're definitely going to hit this goal. I don't think there's any question about it. If you pledge $5 or more, that's just kind of a thank you type of thing, or just kind of a donation, basically. You pledge $25 or more, you get a t-shirt. If you pledge $49 or more, the earliest bird, you will actually get a Zephyr VR. You'll get one of these Zephyr VRs, and you'll get a 15-foot mini USB cable. Now that's kind of a downside right there, that little mini USB cable. Although I guess if you plug it into the Vive, you could probably have a short cable that would go into the little USB thing on the Vive. So maybe you wouldn't have to run a cable all the way back to wherever it's going. But if you pledge $49 or more, you can lock in. Now, estimated delivery is May of 2018. That's estimated, of course. Right now, there's 78 78 of 150 options are still available. They have 72 backers at this $49 pledge. But basically, I'm looking at this and it's kind of interesting. It's actually a relatively interesting concept that they got here, because basically what they've designed is they have this little fan, these two little fans, okay, that connect to your headset, and they've made different kind of adapters that will make it snap on to the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, or the PlayStation VR. So this will work for all three of the various platforms. And what it does is they basically, let's see where I can find it here, where they're talking about how what they did was in almost all games. Okay, here it is. So the Zeph VR is an accessory that attaches smart fans to any VR headset and adds realistic wind at the right moments. So when you fly, fall, or accelerate, or when there's wind in a game, you'll actually feel it. We like to think of it as a rumble pack for VR. It uses machine learning to recognize the sound of wind and motion in VR games automatically, which means it works for all games out of the box. So what they did was they kind of analyzed a bunch of different games and analyze the sound to kind of know when, like, you're accelerating or when there's wind, and then it kicks on these fans. There's two different fans. I don't know if it'll like only use one fan, or if it always uses both of the fans, or how that works. But they kind of talked about it in one of the games that they showed working with this is Windlands. And Windlands, you're obviously zipping through the air and you're feeling, well, you feel like there should be wind, and so having that is cool. I can tell you that using my Vive, one thing that I did very early on in my Vive use, because Vive came out in April of 2016, and it wasn't too long before, boom, it was summer and it was already hot. And what I did is I had two different fans that were working in this room. I had a fan over here and I had a fan over there, and I had both of them blasting my play space area. And one of the things I've noticed about having fans, there's something about having a little bit of wind that blows in your face that actually seems to lower motion sickness in almost every game. I don't know what it is. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's something that I did notice, that if you have fans going on, it seems like it helps with the motion sickness a little bit. And then also in a lot of these games, you'll be in a world where there's trees and stuff, and you kind of see the trees blowing in the wind a little bit. And if you actually have a fan going, it kind of adds that immersion. Now, what this does is it's putting these fans right on the headset itself. It's down low here. A side effect of having these little fans there, I would imagine, would be good for PlayStation VR as well, because PlayStation VR does seem to have more of a fogging problem than the other headsets seem to have. So these little fans would kind of help out with that. But I don't know. I mean, it really depends. This could be one of these goofy things that you use once in a while and then you don't like it anymore. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work out. It's an interesting Kickstarter. I mean, when I saw that this was $50 and I saw that it worked for all three headsets, I kind of thought, maybe, but if you pledge 79 or more, you get the Zephyr VR, you get a 15-foot mini USB cable, you get a 15-foot audio cable with splitter, you get an audio processing box, and then you get clips for cross compatibility with Vive and Rift. And then if you go to the $100 one, PlayStation VR, additional microcomputer and audio cable to enable PSVR compatibility. Yeah, so looking at this, it seems like there's a lot of little extras that have to come into play. So I don't know that I'm really down with this Zephyr VR. But it's interesting. It's an interesting idea. I think the idea of wind in VR is an interesting concept. I've kind of thought about if you could have a room scale situation where you have fans in very specific locations in your room scale, and if games were actually designed to know, okay, it's going to turn that fan on, but all these other fans are going to turn off, and then it's going to turn those 3 fans on, but that fan's going to be off. I always thought that that would be kind of interesting if they could create something like that, but that's probably something that's going to be probably going to be need to come from the arcades. You're probably going to have some kind of arcade experience that works something like that in. But it's an interesting idea. Again, we continue to have lots of accessories that come out for these VR systems, like the Vive and Chill and other ones that are coming out, and that's another interesting one to take a look at. Another news story I have real quick is Jim Ryan, a Sony SIE employee. He has reaffirmed Sony's long-term commitment to VR. And so this is an interview with Telegraph. Jim Ryan, he's head of global sales and marketing at Sony SIE. He was asked whether or not the general public had that much interest in VR, and he responded with this quote: "Yes, I do. I think VR we definitely see as having the potential to be a very significant part of the future of interactive entertainment. Now, quite what the horizon is and quite what the rate of pace of adoption is, that's still a little unclear, but Sony is committed to this and we're in it for the long haul." So I'm just going to bring this story up because we did have the CCP Games Debbie Downer story, and this is just Sony reaffirming their long-term commitment. Honestly, I think all these companies, I think anybody that is got some modicum of knowledge knows that this VR and AR stuff, it's not going away. We just don't know how early days it is. When television first came, regular people didn't have televisions. I mean, it took a long time for television to actually get into people's homes and be a regular thing. It was like a 25-year process from the time they first started having television to where people actually had it in the regular, normal people had it in their homes. It was probably a 25-year period of time. This type of stuff happens. So I don't know that we're going to have VR overnight where it's just going to be this mass market thing, but Sony knows that this is a long-term play and they have a commitment to it, and we saw that commitment at Paris Games Week with all the different games they announced. Blood and Truth, so many different games that Sony showed off. So they're definitely committed to this. So despite CCP Games having their concerns and shutting down their VR development, there is still some good news in the VR space, and companies are still going to continue forward with this. So I don't think it's quite as depressing as maybe we might have originally thought. One more little PlayStation VR news tidbit is the PlayStation Plus. So you know how Sony has this PlayStation Plus service where you pay a monthly fee, or you pay for 1 year of PlayStation Plus. And one of the bonuses of having PlayStation Plus, well, it does give you online play. But the other big bonus is that you would get free games every single month. And this was a really good deal back in the days. If you had a PlayStation Vita, if you had a PlayStation 3, and you had a PlayStation 4, if you had PlayStation Plus, they were giving you free games for all of these platforms. Every single month, a couple of free games were coming. Now, you had to keep PlayStation Plus. You had to keep subscribed to it, because as soon as you turned it off, any games that you got under that program, those were also turned off as well. So it was different from the Xbox scenario, where Xbox, you get the free games even if you don't have the service anymore, you still have those free games. So PlayStation Plus, a little bit different. Now, since the very beginning, they have not fully supported PlayStation VR. They don't give a free PlayStation VR game every single month. However, they have offered some PlayStation VR games here and there. Riggs was free for a short period of time. A couple other VR games have been included for a short period of time. Now, for the month of November, Worms, Armageddon, and Bound are the 2 free games. And Bound is a regular PS4 game, but it also has PSVR support, so it technically is a PSVR game. And then the other thing they're doing is they're adding a bonus game from November 7th through January 2nd. Rush of Blood will be free for any PlayStation Plus owner. So you do have Rush of Blood and Bound that are both going to be available this November, but Sony is not saying that every single month you're going to have a PSVR game. So they still haven't supported it quite like that. I had a little video breakup right there. Sorry about that. So they still haven't supported it quite like that, but it is encouraging. And hopefully maybe in 2018, they'll come out with an official announcement saying that PlayStation Plus will have free games every single month. That's probably the way it should be. I think it's been long enough. They have enough older games that came out back at launch that they can start including on a monthly basis. So hopefully that will happen. And then the last thing, I know we've hit the 25-minute mark. I just want to talk real quickly and say Stifled. So I played more Stifled yesterday, and I want to say that my first initial impressions of it kind of being a dud, I might have jumped the gun a little bit. I still don't think this is a sensational game that I'm going to be raving about by any stretch of the imagination, but playing it yesterday, I was a little bit more impressed by what I was playing, and I was having some more fun with it. The combat is still, well, actually, I was talking about the combat, and I was talking about picking up these rocks and throwing it at this weird red baby thing. I don't think you're actually supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to take the rock and throw it to another location so that the little red baby thing runs over there, which then can give you an opportunity to sneak by the baby and get where you need to go. So I don't think you're actually trying to kill these baby things. I've thrown a ton of rocks at these babies. I haven't been able to kill them. So maybe you can't actually kill any monsters in this game. All you can do is try to get them to go somewhere else, and it's more of kind of a stealth game. And also, when you're in the dark and when you are making noise and it lights up the environment, that is a pretty cool effect. I kind of recalibrated my mic and made it a little bit lower so I don't have to be as loud to do it. And it is pretty cool. There's a lot of good sound play here. So I just want to say that Stifled might not be quite as bad as I alluded to yesterday. I still don't think this is... it's not up there with like Megaton Rainfall or The Invisible Hours or any of the really good PSVR games that we've gotten recently. This is definitely not a major VR hit as far as I'm concerned, but it's not quite as bad as I initially thought. So anyway, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Once again, I'm sorry about video problems. I'm sorry about hitching a video or like lip sync and stuff. I don't know what's going on here. I might need to either use a different camera maybe, or use some other kind of recording software, because I'm just using the Logitech webcam software. I thought it would get better video. I thought it would work better, but I'm still having some slight issues here and there, and I apologize for that. But anyway, that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for episode 24 for Thursday, November 2nd, and I will, of course, see everybody tomorrow. Take it easy.